Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Yo Nityamachyutam Bhujagmarukma Vyamo Hatastaditarani Trinayamene Asmad Guru Bhagavato Sedaika Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadhe. Yasya Smarnamatrena Dvaitavasana Pramachyate Bodhatmakaya Namastasmai Bhagavate Shri Ramanamarshye हृदाकाशे सदा भान्तं शान्तं आनन्दरूपिणं ज्ञानभाण्वहं वन्दे सद्गुरुं श्री सत्यसायिनं मम अन्तर्यामिनम्. After yesterday's pravachan, already I received communications from many people expressing their deep desire to embark on that spiritual journey that we were talking about yesterday. And for each one of you who have sent me some form of communication, I'm very, very, very pleased that you did not even let one day go before you decided to throw yourself completely into this. There was no humming and hawing. There was no sitting on the fence. There was no hesitation. There was then and there an immediate commitment. That commitment itself is to be lauded. That commitment itself is to be praised, to be appreciated. But will you have already put your thoughts together? I would advise everybody to hold on until we finish Prashanti Vahini sessions, because we'll find Swami unfolding and giving some beautiful treasures for us. So let's listen fully for these next 2 days also. Then we will have an even better grasp of the sadhana path that Swami is wanting to hold out for us. By sending it so quickly, you have beautifully demonstrated your sincerity, commitment, eagerness, enthusiasm, shraddha. It is very, very important. Very, very important. So, from that point of view already, it is very good. But wait as we will find more nuggets, more treasures that will come. And you yourself will know how to incorporate all of that also as part of your beautiful journey towards God. Interestingly, today, this morning, I read a letter from Swami to a devotee. It was really a letter to all the residents of Prashanti Nilaya. Swami had written this way back in 1964, December. 16th of December 1964, Swami has written this letter to the ashram people. These were the residents of Prashanti Nilayam, ashram. Swami would have obviously been somewhere. Maybe Vrindavan, maybe somewhere. But this letter was written to a particular person, Sitaramaya, Dr. Sitaramaya. And it was to be conveyed to all the people of Prashanti. Convey my blessings to all devotees in the mandir. Ask them to carry on their work without wasting energy. Tell them to follow such discipline which does not break Prashanti. And ask them to sanctify their time with prayers. Tell them that Swami is always with them, ever watching them. True devotion is to feel Sai's presence in all their actions at all times, in all substances. This alone is the power of discrimination. Viveka Shakti, Divya Rakti, that is, love towards the divine. Tell them to maintain silence and cleanliness. Tell strongly and emphatically that ashramites should move with due care in this ashram space. Going out without any work and mixing with outsiders leads to ashanti. Such conduct is totally against devotion. Everybody should sanctify their time performing their sadhanas observing speech control. During bhajans, without giving way to likes, dislikes, and disparities, ask them to sing and pray, losing their mind in passion for God. Bhagavan once again conveys blessings to all of them. The letter from Swami. In Telugu must be translated into English. Similarly, another letter, again written by Swami, this is in 1965, May. In the mandir, may all the time be spent immersed in acts of sadhana. This is the ultimate goal. There is no other way. The word or command of Sai is more important than the form of Sai. By conducting oneself in total acceptance of the word, one can receive grace. Sadhana is the primary action through which they can draw Sai's attention towards them. That alone is Brahmamarga. Give up material pursuits to some extent. Giving up material pursuits to some extent, one should pursue the path of sadhana. True sadhana is to throw aside demonic qualities such as jealousy, pride, anger, hatred, and inculcate divine qualities. Food becomes poisonous and the stomach gets upset when it is cooked in a vessel without lining. Similar is the result when good deeds are done with demonic qualities. Such a stomach weakens the body. The body is the boat which can take us to Kaivalya, the ultimate abode. To provide timely food and sleep, keep attention on the goal. Sadhana is To provide timely food and sleep, keeping attention on the goal, sadhana is sufficient to safeguard the boat, the body. Giving enough time to look after the body, just as much as necessary, timely food, timely sleep, and then keep the attention on the goal. This sadhana alone is enough to safeguard the boat, the body, and take us to the supreme truth, Brahma Marga. Swami's words on the importance of sadhana, the importance of discipline, have been beautifully narrated here by Swami. This is what Swami has always wanted. This is what Swami has always expected. Then, looking at us based on our capabilities, capacities, Swami has made it simpler and simpler and simpler. Namasmarana, Seva. Abdina Swami has always made it simple. Dhyana, Swami never really insisted so much on meditation because, in one way, he would have thought, when I'm there, will they not meditate upon me? Why should I tell them to meditate in Anshantaro? Naturally, that beautiful comely form of Swami was always before our mental eyes. We don't have to close our eyes to meditate on Swami, and those beautiful gestures of Sai, the smile, the waving of his hands, the patting of his hair, the way in which he would pick up the robe and walk, the gliding walk that he had, the way he would reach out for the letters, the way he would create vibhuti and give it to everybody, the way he would bend down to ask what is going on. And these things, there's no need to meditate separately because how can we ever forget them? They're always playing in front of our inner eye as though a non-stop, constant movie. Every little thing when he sits in the bhajan hall, the way he would keep his fingers together, Swami would sit, these two fingers will go together. The little finger and the ring finger will touch together and go like this. And Swami will sit like that. Just looking at that little finger itself was so beautiful. It was a meditation in itself. Swami says, my rupa is not as important as my words. True. Perhaps it's true. That to Swami it is true. Swami says, my words are more important. To us, both are equally important. Without that rupa, the words could not come. And then to immerse oneself in that beauty of that form itself gave so much delight to us. It is a spontaneous dhyana. There is no need to pay attention to sit and do that dhyana. It is happening all the time. Always enjoy the Shanti. Let's go back to Prashanti Vahini. Always enjoy the Shanti that is the result of stopping all your chitta vikaras, mental agitations. Do not allow the mind to run after this and that. Train it to keep quiet. And these were the key words when we started off on that whole army of sadhakas yesterday. Train it to keep quiet. Training. Mind will not automatically sit down without training because it is not in its nature. It has to be trained. Even a child has to be trained to learn. Potty training, and we start. It's the first training that we give to a child also. Some training of some sort. Otherwise, it will never happen. Somehow we will learn that doesn't happen. Mind especially. Its very nature being to run around here and there. It cannot suddenly decide to sit inside and focus on the truth unless it is trained by sadhana. Through sadhana it has to be trained. Keep away and afar the mental reactions caused by the contact with the external world. External world, first of all, reduce the contact with the external world as much as possible when we are keen and interested only in sadhana. But in spite of how much ever you keep aside the contact with the world, you still have to have contact. You cannot avoid it. Swami used to tell us two things. When we first joined Swami's college in Vrindavan during the first summer course itself, we were told this. In the afternoons, some of the teachers would come and give talks. I remember this particular talk that Narasimurthy sir gave. The warden, at that time he was the warden of Vrindavan campus, he gave this talk and he said, Swami always insists on two things. He said, what is that? Avoid too much talk, avoid too much contact. These two things were insisted upon. First summer course I remember very well. Avoid too much talk, avoid too much contact. This is the thing. Two significant things I remember in that whole speech that he said. One was this. The other one was, he said, generally when children go away from their parents and go live somewhere, they'll feel homesick. But this is the only place where you will not feel homesick. Instead, the parents will feel children sick. Parents will feel son sick because you are with Swami, you will never miss home. This is your home. You will feel this is your home. I mean, he was very sweetly, he said those words and they were true. We never missed home. We were home. It is parents who missed us. That was one thing he said, which I can even now remember after so many years. How many years? How many years, sir? 30 years. After 30 years, I can still remember these words. Almost 30 years. The other thing that, very important thing he said was, avoid, this is something Swami always gives as an instruction to everybody, avoid too much talk, avoid too much contact. It's beautiful. As I thought about those words, I realized how beautifully Swami has phrased those words. Avoid too much contact. Not avoid too many contact. Avoid too much contact. Many is quantification. Much is quality. You may be in a job where you may come into contact with a lot of people. You cannot say, no, I'm doing sadhana, I cannot meet anybody in a shalom. You have to meet with everybody. But too much means how much contact, how deeply you get involved. That is the important thing. You can mix with everybody, you can talk in the world. We have got to do that also. Swami used to tell us of how when Hanuman went to Lanka, he met with Vibhishana. In Valmiki Ramayanam, this is not there. But Swami would always speak about how Hanuman met up with Vibhishana in Lanka. And there's a beautiful conversation that goes on. In that, Hanuman asks, how is it that you're living in this Lanka, surrounded by all these Rakshasas and you're still devoted to Rama? Apo, Vibhishana says, just as the tongue resides in the midst of 32 sharp teeth, tongue is so soft, tongue is so sensitive, and it is surrounded by 32 teeth. Each one of them are like a Rakshasa that can crush it. But in the midst of it all, it lives. Like that I'm living. Vibhishana said it. Similarly, Hanuman also tells Vibhishana something. Vibhishana says, you're so lucky, you get to keep constant company with Sri Rama. Alas, I am so far away. Apo, Hanuman says, what have you done until now in Rama Karyam? What have you done for Rama Seva? You're taking Rama's Nama, but how much of Ram ke Kam, what have you done? What of Rama's work have you accomplished so far? Do service for Rama, then you will also be close to Rama. Hanuman initiates Vibhishana. From then on, Vibhishana also starts striving and he says, oh, you must release Sita, release Sita, release Sita, until he gets kicked out and gets Rama Sannidhi. So like the tongue residing amidst the teeth, like that we should live in this world. We cannot run away. Tongue cannot run away. Tongue has to live in between them. Like that we have to live in this world, but without too much contact with anything external. Anything not to do with God, we must not have too much contact with it. For those who are interested in sadhana, this becomes very vital. Because as Swami says here, if you mix with outsiders, who's an outsider? One who is not interested in sadhana is an outsider. He can be anybody. He can be mother, father, brother, sister, son. It could be anybody. And it becomes an outsider because what will happen? They will distract you, divert you. So should I not talk to them? Who says so? Of course you must talk to them. Like the tongue with the teeth, you mix with all of them. Give love to everybody. Is the tongue fighting with any of the teeth? In fact, if the tongue ever goes and touches the teeth, it is caressing the teeth also, the tooth also, isn't it? It is giving only love. But it makes sure it is not crushed by the teeth. That is all. You've got to be intelligent enough. Doesn't mean you avoid your family. Doesn't mean you give them up or turn your back towards them. When you love everybody, is your family not part of that love all? Love them also. But too much contact should be avoided. Too much contact, if at all you must have, should be with the Antaryami inside you. With Bhagavan, you should have too much contact. You can never have actually too much contact with him. You can never have too much contact. Rest of them, love them without being attached to them. Otherwise, they themselves will become obstacles in our sadhana. A detachment is necessary there. Loving detachment is very essential. Sometimes people get confused in the name of detachment. It turns into hatred or avoidance. And I won't talk to them. Why? Why should you not talk to them? Why should you not be with them? Why should you not go and see them? There's nothing wrong in all of those things. But too much. When do we know it is too much? When our focus is shifting, we know it is too much. When do you know that you've had too much contact with somebody? When your focus towards God is slightly shifting, you can see a change. You can see your intensity starting to slow down. You've had too much contact. Withdraw. Because this is more important. You've had millions of mothers and millions of fathers, millions of brothers and sisters, wives and husbands, and the millions of births that you have taken. This we have got to wake up and realize. The only goal again and again and again and again in Prashanti Vahini, I do not know. I have lost count of the number of times Swami has insisted upon this, the purpose of life, the only purpose of life, the only goal in life. So many times he has said is God, is attaining God. Because we have never before attained God. We have attained all the other things so many times. We have never attained God, because if we had attained God, then why would we be struggling again? So do not allow the mind to run after this and that. Keep it far and away from all the mental reactions that come from external contact. Then you can reach the state that is beyond the realm of the senses. This is real Sakshatkara. Maunam bhajasva, it is said. Maunam bhajasva, maintain silence. But what is maunam? Not merely keeping the mouth shut. It means getting beyond the influences of the senses and getting established always in that consciousness of one's own reality, God. Perpetual ananda is also perpetual shanti. When the mind withdraws from the external world, that tongue also becomes silent. When the mind withdraws from the external world, tongue becomes silent. All the senses then follow suit. That is more. Pratyahara. In Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, one of the steps that is listed in that is called Pratyahara. Swami is going to speak about these 8 limbs, Ashtanga Yoga, in his own way. He's going to interpret them and he's going to talk about them. That's why I said, wait for that beautiful sadhana plan that Swami himself is going to give us. Most of you have heard about the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. 8 limbs of yoga. Final attainment is Samadhi. And you follow these 8 steps, you attain that Samadhi sthiti. But Swami is going to make it so simple. Swami is going to make it so easy for us to follow. Right towards the end of Prashanti Vahini, that is how he finishes his Prashanti Vahini. So let us wait for that. Maybe tomorrow it will come and take up our attention. We will look into that. Real Maunam, that is a real state of Samadhi. How do we accomplish it? When we go behind, withdraw from the senses. Apo, the entire world, what will happen? When the activities of the mind are stilled, then, and the mind and the intelligence is safe harbored in the Brahman alone, then everything will appear to be Sarvam Brahmamayam, Parabrahmamayam. One has to observe, again, another beautiful instruction. Ella Swami is giving all of these nuggets, but in the end he is going to bring them all together in that 8 steps. But here for now he is giving another beautiful thing. One has to observe the world from afar with an uninterested attitude, udasina bhava. Such a one alone can become a Mahatma who has transcended Prakriti. Such people will escape the wiles of the intellect, which breed doubts, delusions, and dualistic diversions away from the Atmic reality. Swami is introducing another important concept that is very vital in sadhana, in spiritual life. Udasinata, Udasina bhava. Udasina, disinterestedness. How should you view this world? With disinterestedness. This is not different to what we have been saying all along. How do we view the world right now? With so much interest. Our mental energies, our emotional attachments are being poured into this world. We are no longer separate from it. We are no longer indifferent to it. We are very, very affected by it in every way. That is how we are living our life. That is why we are miserable. The reason for our misery is because of the investment that we have put into something that is a total loss. That is the problem. We are not realizing it. A person went on investing in a particular stock in the market. This was he didn't, whether he realized it or not, whether two people told him or not, we do not know. But it was a company that was doomed to failure. It has poor management. People take arbitrary decisions there. There's a lot of infighting there. There's a lot of jealousy, competition within. There's a lot of corruption within. Everybody is filled with their own desires and anger and hatreds and greed and so on and so forth in that company. Nobody is trustworthy. Nobody is working sincerely for the company. This is the nature of this company. This fellow is going on investing his money into it. One day what happened? It goes bankrupt. He loses all his money. Is he going to be happy? Is he going to be happy? What is this company? World is this company. Jagat is the company. How is this world? Is there any sincerity in it? No. Are people all working towards a common goal? No. Everybody is working independently, filled with their own greed, filled with their own desires. Is anybody trustworthy? No. What are we investing into it? Our greatest currency, Shraddha. Our greatest currency that we have, Shraddha, our interest, our attention, our emotional space, that energy we are investing into this world over and over again. Knowing that its value is dropping, we are still investing. This is the irony. Over the period of your lifespan, you know what happens? You realize, you start to wake up and realize around 30, you start realizing that actually everything is going downhill. Starting from the body. There are no problems. From 30, you start having problems. By 40, the problems are very visible to you. By 50, they alone exist. By 60, there is no end to them. By 70, you want to put an end to them. There's nothing but problems. You are seeing it go down, degrade in front of your eyes. Whether it is the body, whether it is the mind, whether it is your faculties and energies, whether it is your aims, aspirations, ambitions. A 16-year-old, when he starts off, wants to change the world. Except for all of you who are not yet 16. For all of you who have been 16 at one point in time or the other. Just think, if you can remember how idealistic you were, what kind of a fervor you were filled with when you looked at the world and you saw people behaving in all kinds of I will be like this, I will be like that, and Allah people start. 16 la. What is the difference between 16 and 60? At 16, they want to change the world. At 60, how it is. They settle down. That's the difference. Because you realize you cannot change the world. Greater people than you have not been able to change the world. What kind of an idiot are you that you think you can change the world? You can change yourself. You can change your attitude. If at least by 60 you realize it, then good. The earlier you realize it, the sooner you realize it, the better for you. What should change? I should change. I should change myself. How? Udasinata. Becoming indifferent, uninterested attitude to the world. Not interested. No curiosity. Something is happening. No interest, no curiosity, nothing. I'm watching it. It's all there. Okay, fine. Whatever. It's all in His hands. Why? How can I afford to be indifferent? If it is in my hands, then I have to be worried about it. When the fate of the entire world is in His hands, what is going to happen by me worrying? Adanale disinterested. Such a one alone can transcend Prakriti, can become a Mahatma, can go beyond this Maya, which leads you away from the Atmic reality. Therefore, may all sadhakas, by their disciplined lives and ceaseless effort, establish themselves in the knowledge of their own Swarupa, their own reality. May they keep their minds away from the Drishya Prapancha. Contemplate on the Paramatma always. Acquire peace of mind. Withdraw from all contact with the sensory world. Saturate themselves in Ananda and know themselves as the one without a second. This is the Udasina Bhava, the stage of disinterestedness, the condition of the person who has grasped the truth. This is the state in which Shuka, Sanaka, Sanandana, etc. were established. They had no affliction or doubt or distraction because they have no need for any further thought or inquiry. They are not bothered by any change or modification because the Atma does not have any of these. But once again, let me just read the paragraph that Swami has written. Therefore, may all sadhakas, by their disciplined lives, how are you going to accomplish this? By their disciplined lives and ceaseless effort. We can enforce discipline in our lives for a day or two. Third day, it starts to slowly deteriorate. By the time the end of the month has come, we have totally stopped all our sadhanas. Ceaseless effort. We cannot afford to let go of this effort. Until the goal is realized, we cannot stop. Stop not till the goal is reached, said Vivekananda. You cannot stop until the goal is reached. Where you stop is not the goal. Where the goal is, you come to a stop. And goal, I am tired, I am stopping here, this is the goal. This is not a ever-shifting goalpost. You have got to go until you reach the goalpost. It is in the same place only. Kutastha. It is given a name Kutastha. Kutastha means immovable, that which never moves. It never moves. You have to attain it. How? Through ceaseless effort. What is the ceaseless effort? What is that disciplined life? And what is the ceaseless effort? Keeping the mind away from the Drishya Prapancha, from the seen world. Contemplating on the Paramatma always. Withdrawing from all contact with the world of the senses. Saturating ourselves in Ananda. And knowing ourselves as the one without the second. Ekameva Advitiyam. To know our truth as the Atma, this alone is the disciplined life and the ceaseless effort required to maintain such discipline in our life. See, every person who applies to an army will not naturally be inducted into it. Isn't it? There are recruiting procedures in the army. They will make you run. Somebody was telling me about a person who wanted to join the army in Sri Lanka. And he was made to run some big distance. He ran and ran and ran. Power. He was only little bit left, it seems. Little bit left. He said, I cannot do it anymore. He gave up there. Well, he was not inducted into the army. So second time he went. And second time also at the same place he stopped. In the end he went and studied accounts and became an accountant. Or a clerk or something. No, not everybody is inducted into the army just because I want to. I want to. Who know? They say, okay, you get good food. The army canteen is there. The army store is there. You get a lot of discounts. You will be treated with all kinds of good things for life. Who will say, no, I don't want? Everybody will say yes. But qualifications are also necessary. Dedication is also necessary. Army is going to test your physical stamina. Normal army, military army will test your physical stamina. In the army of sadhakas, it's only your mental stamina that is going to be tested. What is mental stamina? Endurance. You have to run. Leah. You can't drop off halfway. No? If you start, you have to do it. You cannot drop off halfway. If you drop off halfway, then you are not fit to be part of that army. Isn't it? Natural, no? There cannot be any doubts about it. It's the most natural thing. So what is required for this army? Disciplined life and ceaseless effort. Swami, every word of Swami is saturated with so much meaning, pregnant with so much meaning. You've got to go in and unearth it, analyze it, understand it. Disciplined life, ceaseless effort. What form do they take? Keeping the mind, may they keep their minds away from the Drishya world, Drishya Prapancha. the seen world. Contemplate on the Paramatma always, the indweller. Acquire peace of mind by withdrawing from all contact with the sensory world. Withdrawing from all contact. Matra sparshasta kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkada. As long as we are in contact with this world of senses, we are going to find all the various feelings of joy and sorrow, pain and pleasure. Everything is going to come to us. So, withdraw. This withdrawal is not a physical withdrawal. I'll close my eyes. I've withdrawn from seeing. Physical withdrawal. Mental withdrawal. How? I become disinterested, uninterested in what I see. I see something. Okay, it's there. So what? If on the other hand the mind wants to go and run behind whatever I have seen, then that is where the problem is. I saw. Okay, it didn't make any difference to me. An example I've given many times is this. You are traveling in a public transport in Australia, let us say. You're sitting in a bus or standing in a train, you're going somewhere. All around you, conversations are going on. People are talking. You're not paying any attention to any of those conversations. Suddenly, somebody is saying, Netiki, na anda kadiki pone, in Tamil. Somebody is suddenly talking. Immediately you will turn around. Hey, what? Something related to me. So I'm immediately interested in at least finding out who is speaking. Somebody is speaking in my language. Until then, there are so many conversations going on. None of those conversations are registering in me. I'm sitting and reading something maybe. Maybe you're sitting and reading something. And people are conversations are going on. So one word has been said in Tamil. One sentence has been said. Immediately you lift up your head and look in the direction. So, udasinata is certainly possible for us if we are not interested in what is going on. But on the moment we become interested, then we will give up what we are doing and pay attention to that. Isn't it? So we have got to train ourselves to become disinterested in all these things outside. How? Useless, valueless. What use it is to me to know these things? Like Shuka tells Parikshit, Shrotavyadini Rajendra Nrinam Santin Sahasrashaha. Yarukina Apashyatama Atma Tattvam. Griheshu Grihamedinam. For those who are not interested in the Brahman, for those who are not interested in God, there are thousands of things to become interested in. But for those who want to attain the Lord, there is only one thing that they are interested in. When there are 1,000 things that you can pay attention to, which one will you pay attention to? Won't you be at a loss? On the other hand, there is only one thing to pay attention to. Isn't it easier? You go into a buffet and there is a spread of dishes and all of it seems to be nice. You don't know which one to have, which one not to have. You are caught in a dilemma. You are standing there for 20 minutes deciding what to pick. On the other hand, you go somewhere and there is only one dish. What happened? You do justice to that dish happily. Abada. No problem. You can eat that dish nicely. Ekatlada sukham. Happiness is in one, not in many. Happiness is in one, not in multiplicity. When there is one of it, you can enjoy it. There are too many of it, you cannot enjoy it. In the world, there is far too much, far too many. Ishvara is one alone. If you choose Ishvara, then we are happier because he is the one thing that we have to choose, and all our energy, all our dedication can be to spend towards him. Otherwise, we have got to run around satisfying or getting interested in and then getting burnt in so many directions. In so many different things, you have to go and get burnt. Therefore, withdrawing from all contact with the sensory world, saturating oneself in ananda and knowing oneself as the one without a second, one should immerse themselves in sadhana. This is the udasina bhava, the stage of disinterestedness. No change can then make any difference to you because that in which you are interested in is changeless. What you are interested in is not changing. Upon again a problem. How does it matter? You know what? That they have changed that. Okay, but I am not interested in it. Yeah? If it is not applicable to you, then it doesn't matter if the rules change. So many rules are changing. Every time we see in the news, massive rule change to New South Wales. Massive rule change to Victoria. Especially New South Wales. When we are sitting here, massive rule change in New South Wales. We are not interested. Why? It is not applicable to me. I am not interested. If there's a rule change in Victoria, maybe I will look it up. But a rule change in New South Wales, testing rules change in New South Wales. What is it to me? I'm here. I'm not interested. Isn't it? I have udasinata towards that. I have disinterestedness towards that because I am not interested in it. Because it doesn't concern me. It doesn't relate to me. If in the same way I am relating myself to Ishvara, to Bhagavan, he is the only thing that matters to me. Any change in him I should immediately take note of. But luckily for me, he's the one changeless thing in this world. So even if I will not miss anything, I don't have to, oh no, I missed the change. I mean, there's no news about him that will change. When he took Narasimha Avatar also, he was the same. When he took Rama Avatar also, he was the same. When he came as Satya Sai also, he was the same. There is no change to him. There are no new rules that you have got to read up, study, retrain. No new avatar, so I have to retrain. No, they are the same rules. How easy it is. How simple it is. Rest of it, if I become interested in the rest of it, I will be dragged. I'll be dragged into those things. So, Ramana Bhagavan would say, when so many thoughts, impulses, urges, curiosity, so many things come, what do we do? Scorch them by ignoring them, was the instruction he gave. Scorch them, poshikidu. You burn them to ashes, scorch all of those things. How? By ignoring them. You have a potted plant in your house. You want to get rid of it. What do? Ignore it. Ignore it. It will die. No? If you don't do anything, it will wither away. Automatically, without doing anything, ignoring it is enough to kill it. Like that. There are so many weeds that are growing within our mind also. Indoor space now. So many things are growing. What should we do? Ignore them. Ignore this world. Ignore all those curiosities that are present which do not lead you directly to God. I'm using the word directly because your mind can twist and make everything indirectly leading to God. That's mind capacity. No. If I do that, then I had in the US, when I was in the US, I had an acquaintance, a fellow. I went to his house. He hadn't married, he was living by himself. I went to his house. His cupboard was filled with all kinds of household items. Pots and pans and spoons and cutlery and appliances. Some of them have not even been opened from the original purchase packet. It is a seal. When did you buy this? Oh, some 6 months ago. When did you buy it? Oh, some 8 months ago. Why? You not even opened it? No, I have not. Then why did you buy it? Why did you buy all these things? You know what he said at that time? This was going back to 2003 maybe. 2003. He said, all these things are made in China. So when I buy these things, some family in China is eating food because I'm sending my dollars to them. Is there logic to it? Selfless service. Grama Seva. He is doing Grama Seva in China. By cutting down on our greed alone, we can help the world. By growing greedy and buying everything up and then justifying it by saying it is feeding some fellow in China. It sounds right, no? Justified. Does it mean you go buy everything because you're feeding families in China? Or wherever? So, if you listen to the mind and its justification, it will keep on weaving a story, such a beautiful story, that it is much more believable than Harry Potter. Harry Potter is anyway not believable, but people read it and discuss about it also later on. That's irony. There are Harry Potter groups that are ardent, they know even the ins and outs of what J.K. Rowling does not know. She's the author, but she doesn't know. These people know. No. I think Dumbledore, or that other fellow, Snape. I think Snape has, IBS. J.K. Rowling doesn't know, but they will say, no, Snake, I'm sure he's got irritable bowel syndrome. Because you see the face, who he is, I think he's got, but he was actually they will say all kinds of nonsense. Mind is like that. It will create stories that are much more believable. That is how this entire world, which is absolutely, utterly false and illusory, has been made to appear so true that you believe it to be the gospel truth, reality in the world. Unless we cultivate this udasina bhava, whatever, I don't care. Whatever. I like that, whatever. People used to say in those days, for whatever. 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 So they don't even say it. They'll just go like this. This means W. This means E. Yeah, W and E. Whatever. அப்படின்பா. நான் எப்படி பார்த்தேன்னா, இப்படி போட்டா நாமம், இப்படி போனா பட்டை, నామమో పట్టయో వాట్ ఎవర్. హరి ఓ మరి హరుడవో ఎవ్వరైననేమి అందరినీ బంగారు అని పిలిచే స్వామి, జనుల మధ్య తిరుగాడే జగపతి அப்படின்னா. ஹரியோ ஹரி ஹருடோ என்ன எவரேனா ஏமி யாரா இருந்தா என்ன வாட் எவர் அப்படின்னு ஒரு அது நாமமோ பட்டயோ அப்படின்னு. Whether Vishnu or Shiva, doesn't matter. ఎవరైనా ఏమి. ఉదాసీనత, whatever. Once a person has tasted the sweetness, he will never more give ear to any other word or disturbing argument. He will never more entertain any distracting thought. He will never more be drawn towards any diversionary attachment. He will hold on steadfastly to his conviction. How do we get our conviction? Swami's words are enough to give us conviction. For us, when we are starting out, experience is at a distance. It will elude us. Experience is not immediate. But what do we need at that time? Faith is what we need. Conviction is what we need. Swami was once telling us I remember in Trai Vrindavan this was. Swami was talking about faith and experience. Somebody had asked a question. And Swami said, what comes first, faith or experience? Some people say experience comes first, only then you'll believe. Swami said, no, faith comes first. If you want to learn swimming, what do? You jump into the water. You don't learn swimming on the land and then jump into the water. Can you learn swimming on the land? You have to get into the water and only then you can learn how to swim in the water. Like that, the same way, faith has to come first, then experience has to come. Experience will come when faith comes. For us, the conviction, Swami says, world is illusory. Good. I don't know whether I know it or not. Actually, all of us can find out for ourselves whether it is illusory or not. It doesn't take very much time, as Swami himself said. Even a little bit of investigation into the nature of this world will reveal to you that it is temporary, it is changing, it is illusory. But even if our own investigation into it is not able to convince us, Swami's words should be enough to convince us. He has said it is useless, then it is useless. Finished. Stop. Yeah, Swami says it is useless. What does he know? Abhina, what to do? How to do that? In Adelaide, once in Adelaide, they had a study circle about the importance of healthy food, good food. So everybody was talking about it, and suddenly some person came up with the statement that, microwaves are not very useful, they are not good. They are anti-spiritual. So then the moment in a Sai group, in a study circle, if you make a statement, you want to justify it, how do you do it? Swami says microwaves are unsafe. In which discourse, I do not know. Which conversation, I don't know. Maybe Swami told them, we do not know. Swami could have in the interview specifically called them and said, look, I called you specifically to tell you microwaves are not safe. We do not know. That's up to Swami and them. Anyway, they said, if you want to shut anybody's mouth up in a Sai group, Swami says, one lady, Pavam, even though the Brahmastra, Swami says, was used, she refused. She was like Hanuman, untied by even Brahmastra. What does he know? She threw another Brahmastra into the mix. What does he know? Is he married? Does he have children? Does he have to get children ready early in the morning to send them to school? He will say with this and that and the other. We only know how difficult it is for us. See, if that is your attitude, does he know? Then there is no point. The understanding, if you're sitting in a study circle, you sit in a study, Swami knows. Of course, her reaction was only because somebody may have abused. Swami says. Simon says, Madhuri, they have abused. Swami says for everything. No, Swami said. No, Swami said. That's secondary. But at the same time, the point though is, that if you start doubting and questioning Swami's own words, then there is no point doing Prashanti Vahini or any other Vahini for that matter. So although our own experience can give us pointers towards the knowledge that the world is false, even if you are not convinced by that, Swami's word should be able to do the trick. You should not say, what does he know? What does he know? He has no wife, he has no children, what does he know? He knows, because he is the one who is inside us. So Swami enna solrar? What does Swami say? Never again be drawn towards any diversionary attachment. Diversion, anything that diverts you away from your goal. Towards that goal. See how you can bring everything to that goal, make everything subservient to the Lord, but don't do it in a twisted manner, like buying things to feed people in China. Not like that. But genuinely find out if whatever it is that you are embarking, how can you bring it towards Him? How can you make it lead towards Him? The Pachko. If you cannot, except through twisted arguments, if you cannot directly find a relationship between whatever you want to do and God, then give up that. Don't give up God. Give up anything that may divert you away from God. Until you learn the beautiful technique of going through everything in life while still in love with God. Nothing in this world is opposed to God really. But for that, you must have that ability to understand. You must have to bring God so much into your very life breath that He is never far away from your thoughts. Swami says that in Prashanti Vahini. Beautifully earlier on he said it. He said, everything is God, but you cannot say everything is God until you have experienced it. You cannot say all is Swami and then have joy and sorrow. Because if everything is Swami, then everything is joy only. There cannot be any sorrow. If everything is God only, there is only hope, there is no despair. If everything is God, then there are no likes and dislikes. Everything, you have to be the same towards everything. Swami said very clearly, if you have not come to that state where everything is God, then to say everything is God and then have likes and dislikes, hope and despair, joy and sorrow is a great sin. It is Daivadroha. It is a betrayal of God. That we have got to be very careful about. We cannot arbitrarily use the argument, but everything is God, everything is God, everything is God. True. Then why are you sad? Why are you miserable? Why are you unhappy? Why are you angry? Whatever the emotions are, why are you? Because everything is God. Then how will you be unhappy with Swami? You cannot say, is unhappiness also not Swami? No, it is not. Sorrow can never be God. God is Ananda Swarupa. Has anybody said he's Dukkha Swarupa? He's only Ananda. He's not Dukkha. So if you're sad and you say everything is God, then Swami says you're committing a great sin. I think better not to say everything is God and just lead lives of saying, okay, some things are God, some things are not God. If some things alone are God and some things are not God, then you jolly well hold on to only those things that are God and reject those things that are not God. You understand this? There's no room for any self-fooling here. No tomfoolery. There is no philosophy of convenience. Where I want, everything is God. Then where I don't want, then it is not God. Anna. Who are we fooling? You are ending up trying to fool God. And God doesn't take very kindly to be fooled. Swami says, you are committing a great sin. So, Udasina Bhava, with Viveka, with discrimination, we have got to keep aside all those things that we know are not leading us towards that goal. All those things that are taking us away from that goal. Anything in which you are able to feel His presence, feel the connection with Him, beautifully the connection with Him, no matter what it is sadhana for you. It is sadhana for you. But if you cannot feel the connection with Him, then no matter what it is, that is not sadhana for you. So what is important is feeling that connection only. There was a devotee of Swami called Ranima. And Swami used to, in those early days when they came to Swami, and they would have such directly had the ability to be instructed by Swami. In that, to the Ranima, Swami says, what is important in this path is inspiration. They translate it as inspiration, and really what it is connection to Swami. And Swami says, if by coming to Prashanti Nilayam, if that connection is going to go, then don't even come to Prashanti. You stay at home and connect to me. Because what is more important is connecting, not where you are. It is not what we do that is important. It is how connected we are with Him that is important. It is what makes us feel that connection. Even if all the scriptures say it is a wrong thing, but if in that you find connection to the God, to the Lord, then that is your sadhana. That becomes your sadhana. There is a devotee of the Lord called Kannappa. Kannappa is a hunter. He was born as a hunter. He was living in the forest, hunting wild animals, collecting, hunting and gathering. And one day he comes across a beautiful Shivalingam, Kalahastishwara. He sees the Shiva. There's no temple there. It's on the top of it's in a valley, infested with all animals and so on, wild animals. It's there by the banks of a river. It is there, Swarnamukhi river, and it is an inaccessible place. There's hardly even a proper temple. Hardly shelter even is not there properly. A priest, a Shivacharya comes every day, somehow with great fear he comes, quickly performs puja and runs away. And wild animals are around in that area. This man, while hunting one afternoon, as he's going here and there, he sees this small mandapam, he comes there and to get rest. But there is a Shivalingam there. And for some reason, he becomes extremely attracted towards the Shivalingam. A sense of prema arises. Why? We can never explain. Love at first sight. Love at first sight. We cannot explain why we feel love at first sight towards somebody. There's no logic. Falling in love later on is a different story. Love at first sight is something different. Some strange chemistry works. Lucky are those who fall in love with God at first sight. Then no pain. Only Ananda after that. So this Kannappa, his name was not Kannappa at that time. Thinnanu peru. Thinnan அப்படினு பேர் அவனுக்கு. In a way, Thinna also means determined in artham. This Thinna looked at this Shivalingam, fell in love with it, and wanted to do something for it. Artha, what could he do? Adanala, he had heard a little bit about Shiva. So Abhishekam has to be done, flowers has to be offered, Nevedyam has to be offered. Then and there he wanted to do all of that. How did he do? He looked around, he had nothing with which he could do any puja. Nearby river is flowing. Adanala, he ran to the river to get some water for Abhishekam. By the time he comes back, there is no water left in the hand. It's a bit of a distance. By the time he comes running, how much water can he bring? He said, this won't work. There's no pot, there is no kamandalu, there is no water bottle, there's nothing. What to do now? He drank water, filled it all up inside his mouth. Like a big Hanuman he became. Filled up his mouth with water. Came straight to that Shivalingam and a fountain. He sprayed that water onto on Shiva. It became the Abhishekam for him. And then he wanted to offer flowers. Whatever grass was growing nearby, which he has trampled upon, he plucked all of that flowers, all of that he offered on top of Shiva's. Naivedya has to be offered. What Naivedya? He had hunted a rabbit. He was hungry, he had hunted the rabbit and he had already cooked that rabbit and eaten a bit of it. Little bit was left. He saw the Shivalingam. And he said, okay, doesn't matter. In that half-eaten meat, rabbit meat, he offered that to Shiva. What happened to this Kannappa? Did lightning strike him down for his blasphemous deeds? Shiva himself came out, called him Kannappa. Yennappane, Kannappane. Yennappane, oh my Appa means father. Swami calls him, oh my father, Kannappa, because he gave his very eye to Shiva, Kannappa. Bhakta vatamsayate. The hunter is praised by such an extraordinary Advaita Acharya called Adi Shankaracharya, and Shivananda Lahiri, he says, Bhakta vatamsayate. This Aho vanacharo bhakta vatamsayate. This mere wanderer in the forest, mere hunter became known as the emperor of all devotees. Bhakti kim na karoti. What can bhakti not do? Aho vanacharo bhakta vatamsayate. Which scripture says you can spit on the Lord? Gandu Shambu Nishevanam. Gandu Shambu, the saliva mixed water became your Abhisheka Jalam. Kanchit Bhakshita Mamsa Kavalam. Navyopaharayate became the half-eaten leftover meat. First of all, three things are wrong with it. One, meat. Offering meat to Bhagavan. Second, half-eaten meat. Kanchit Bhakshita Mamsa Kavalam. Piece, small piece, meat piece, half-eaten piece. Itani fusa kondu varala. All thinnu kondu vandirukkan. None of these things seemed important to Bhagavan. Bhagavan instead said, you are the king of devotees. Yeah, what does it mean? Wherever you feel connection, whatsoever activity that you do that makes you feel connected to Bhagavan, Swami, if you are melting in that action, that is a holy action for you. It is tapasya for you. You choose that tapasya. You can choose that tapasya. And each one go on a tapasya. What is necessary? The heart should melt. The inside should feel gooey, like inside Cadbury Eclairs chocolate. In India, we used to have Cadbury Eclairs, not chocolate. Inside will be filled with the gooey center, very soft and gooey. Our heart should be like the external shell will be like that, but the internal should be so soft. If it is like that, then that alone can be the real sadhana for us. Is there anything sweeter than all things sweet, more auspicious than all auspicious things, holier than holy objects? If there is such a thing, then verily it is the name of the Lord or the Lord Himself. Chakare kante tipi dadi saramu kante ruchamu. Swami used to sing a Padya. What is the nature of the name of the Lord? Chakare kante tipi, it is sweeter than sugar. Dadi saramu kante ruchamu, tastier than curds. The name of the Lord or the Lord Himself. Name and the Lord are not two different things. They are not two separate things. Swami tells Kasturi. Yeah. Or I was reading it the other day. Swami wrote a letter to Professor Kasturi from when Swami was in Kodai. When Swami is with you, what more is needed? Name is not different from form. The name points to the form. When you see the form, you remember the name. When that is the case, that my name is always dancing in your heart, naturally you could see the form. You could say that it is all Swami Sankalpa or will. No! Sadhana first, then Sankalpa. That is, human effort first, then the divine will takes shape. Divine will is always in proportion to the power of the devotee's sadhana. Therefore, the power of sadhana is important. The master or teacher gives marks according to what is written by the student. Likewise, the divine will manifests based on sadhana. But for this also, anugraha or grace of God is required. Swami wrote to Professor Kasturi. Two things come into it. One thing we learn is that divine will, Bhagavad Sankalpa, Swami Sankalpa with respect to us depends upon the intensity of our sadhana. But at the same time, when Swami is with you, what more is needed? The name is not different to the form. When the name is always dancing in your heart, then naturally the form also can be seen. So, Nama and Nami are not different. The name and the owner of the name are not different. So Swami says that if there is anything sweeter than all things sweet, anything more auspicious than all things most auspicious, anything holy than holier than all the things, Pavitranam Pavitram Yo, Mangalanam Cha Mangalam. It is holier than the holiest, more sacred than the sacred. What is it, Abhinad? It is the name of the Lord or the Lord Himself. Give up the company of worldly minded, the association with those infected by asuric gunas, qualities. Keep away from every type of wrongdoing. Seek always the company of the wise, the good. Take refuge in Narayana. He, the pure one, is the perfect embodiment of Shanti, of Ananda, of Jnana. He, the Sri Hari, is seated within everyone. He stays constantly in the place where the devotees honor his name sincerely and with single-mindedness. Therefore, first you have to practice intense bhakti towards the Lord. Then you can certainly attain real and permanent happiness and wisdom. Beautiful words again from Swami. Repeated now. The same thing is repeating. And we are also not bored, he is also not bored. So many times he said the same thing. We are also saying the same thing. Repeatedly we are reading the same things. But are we bored listening to it? Again and again, same thing. There is nothing sweeter than God. There is nothing worth seeking in this world than God. There is nothing more purifying in this world than God. There is nothing more sanctifying and liberating to us in this world than God. Therefore, seek Him first. Give up for that. Give up the company of those who do not seek Him. The worldly minded. What will they do? They will talk to you about what? What will they talk to you about? If you sit and talk to them, what else will they talk to you about other than worldly things? Their minds are filled with the world. Therefore, they will only talk to you about what is there. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would say, what you eat, that is what you will belch. If you eat cucumber, Swami also would say that. If you eat cucumber, then when you belch, the smell of cucumber only will come out of you. Ramakrishna had gone to visit somebody, some so-called great man. I think it was Vidyasagar, Ishwara Chandra Vidyasagar. I think he went to visit him. And in a conversation, he asked him, so, what do you think is the goal of life? Abdini, he asked him. Vidyashankar was a person who knew things, but for some reason at that time he said, why? To get married, have a happy life, have children, etc. This is not the goal of life now. Ramakrishna felt as though he was stung by a scorpion. Chi! Became very upset. He said, what is this? A person of your stature speaking such things? Verily it is true, what you eat is what you belch, or what you constantly think about is what you utter through using your mouth also. He started blasting. What do I know? I know nothing. It is better to come from your mouth that I am an ignoramus and a fool than to say I am a clever fellow. He's got humility. He immediately learns his mistake and he apologizes to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And Paramahamsa Deva says that what kind of a thing? What you constantly think about is what will come through your lips also. He makes a beautiful point. What we are always thinking about is what will come through us. If you are always thinking about God, then only God-related stuff will come. If you are always thinking about the world, then only world-related things will come. Yeah. In those days, when we used to fall at the feet of elders, they would say, Nanna padichu, Ariya mark vangi, Priya Udyogatla irundu, Nanna sambadichu, Ashirvadam. Adikinde irukum. Panchamelam Ashirvadam varum. Abadi, Kotrale appadindru. Mazhamari kottu. They will give blessings. Fall at the feet of old tata parties, grandfathers, grandmothers, etc. They will give blessings. Study well, get good marks, get good job, earn a lot of wealth. That is what is there always in their minds. So what blessings can they give? They will give the same blessings. Nobody will say, may you get bhakti, may you get vairagya, may you get jnana. In fact, all of these priests who come and do pujas for all of us, I have told them all. Vidyashankar, Shiraman Mama, I have told all of them. When they do Sankalpa, everybody Dana Kanakana Vastu Vahanadi, Nutana Graha, Nutana Udyoga, Abhivridi, Ella Chulva. I said, Bhakti Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartam, Abdino Potokongo Abdimena. So now all of them, they look at me also. If I am coming and sitting for any of the pujas, they will look at me. Bhakti Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartam. What are you doing puja for? You are worshipping the Lord for what purpose? Anna Tripi Kashi Vano, Pana Vano, Dharmartha Kama Matra Vano, Mokshamati Pecher. Dharma Kama Artha. Ever இருந்தாலும் அர்த்தா is okay. அர்த்தமனர்த்தம் பவய நித்யம் நாஸ்தி தத சுகலேஷ சத்யம் புத்ராதபி தன பாஜாம்பீதிஹி सर्वत्रैषा विहितारीतिः भज गोविन्दम्. Artham anartham. Wealth is ruin. Wealth in limited quantity is useful. Too much wealth is utter ruin. Sri Ramakrishna would give the example of a rabbit. Not a rabbit, a mouse. A frog. Not even a rabbit, not even a mouse. A frog, a mere frog, amphibian. A frog found 1 rupee coin. And so it took that coin and kept it inside some hole where it lives. One day an elephant was walking by, and the elephant happened to walk over the hole. And the frog jumped out and said, "Hey, how dare you cross my hole? Do you know who I am?" Because it has got 1 rupee coin with him. Next instant, the elephant puts its foot down on the frog. Frog will become like a coin. Frog a coin, freshly minted coin, pressed coin. He would say, little bit of money is there. People will suddenly think they, who, no, I don't know. That's why Acharya Shankara says, Artham Anartham. Swami would say, wealth is like slippers. The shoes we wear. If the shoes are too loose, you cannot walk in them. If they are too tight, they will keep biting and pinching you. They have to be the right size. Nobody can compare wealth to shoes, only Swami can. That's very cherry. For what is that which should be seeking? Keep away from the company of those who will only fill your heads with worldly things. You go to them, they will also keep saying, what the world, enjoy your life. This, that and the other. I'm going to this party. I went for that holiday. I went to Tirupati. I went to Srirangam. I went to Puttaparthi. I went to Shirdi. Oh, you can also go to Shirdi. We can also go to Puttaparthi. They will say, no. I went to this place. I went to that place. I went this holiday. I went for that spa treatment. I also want to go spa. Oh, foolish. Just because that fellow went, should we go? Just Dhruva attained God. Should we not therefore attain God? Prahlada attained God. Should we not say, I also want to attain God? Why you compare with the fellow who went to spa? Why not seek the fellow who went to Narayana instead? Always seek the company of the wise, the good, because they will constantly remind you, even if you fall out and you forget it, they will remind you of God. In their very presence, you will be reminded of God. You cannot look at them and not think of God at the same time. Yeah? You have to think of God when you look at them. Those are the holy and the wise ones that Swami is talking about. The wise, the good. Jnani, who's a jnani? The one who reminds you of God automatically becomes your greatest benefactor. He becomes the greatest jnani for you. Apartha Nariko, Bhagavad Vishya, Bhagavan. That the thought of God should arise in. Take refuge in Narayana. He, the pure one, is the perfect embodiment of Shanti, of Ananda and Jnana. He, that Srihari, is seated within everyone. He stays constantly in the place where the devotees honor his name sincerely and with single-mindedness. There's no doubt about it. So because Swami's words are true, here Swami is very well present. We are honoring him with single-mindedness. With sincerity, we are praising him. We are honoring him. Swami is present here. It's that simple to feel his presence. When we are singing that bhajan, did we naturally not feel that he indeed is our dear friend and relative over births together? Janam janam ka bandhu undane shanna Bhagavan. The friend, the relative for births together. We can feel that. Therefore, first, you have to practice intense bhakti, not just bhakti. Intense bhakti towards the Lord. There's a difference between bhakti, devotion. I know devotion, I clap my hands and sing bhajans. That's bhakti. Heart melting is intense. So intense that tears come out of your eyes. So intense that the hair stands on its ends. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would say, if once uttering the name Hari or hearing the name Hari should cause tears to spring up in your eyes, hair to stand on its ends, for your whole heart to melt, then for such a person, he has gone beyond the need of even Sandhya Vandana. He has acquired the highest. No rules are necessary for him. No rules can bind him. No do's and don'ts apply to him, who has reached such a stage where his heart is melting moment to moment thinking about the Lord. That deep-seated churning from within when we hear his name. Then you can certainly attain a real and permanent Ananda and Jnana. Of what use is it to pursue the fleeting pleasures of the senses? Imagine Swami pleading with For what purpose are you going behind the fleeting pleasures of the senses? Worship Hari, who lives in the cavity of your heart, nearer to you than your thickest friend, your father, mother, or guru, who is all these and more also to you. What is the use of pursuing mere worldly pleasures? Instead, worship Hari, who is seated in the cave of your heart, Hridaya Kuhara Madhye, in the Hridayakashatala. Sadabhantama, always shining in the cave of your heart, is Bhagavan, is Srihari, is the Hridayasthai, is the Sai who is the Hridayasthai. Swami writes in another letter, have you made Sai as your Hridayasthai? Swami was saying in that, have you made Swami your Hridayasthai already? Have you made me the resident of your heart? Swami is asking. Hari is present in the cavity of your heart and seated in your heart. How is he? He is nearest to you. He is nearer than you, nearer to you than your closest friend. He is nearer to you, closer to you than your mother and father. He is closer to you than everybody in this world. He is all of these to you and more also to you. Mother can only be mother. Mother cannot be anything else other than mother. Father can only be father. Father cannot be anything else other than father. What is Swami to us, Sabrina? As a beautiful little, small, sweet little talk that M.S. Subbalakshmi gave on 19th November of one year, Ladies' Day celebration. Swami himself led her to the mic and made her speak. Sweet, and it was so sweet. Those words came from her heart. எனக்கு பாடத்தான் தெரியும், பேச தெரியாது அப்படின்னு she started. I know only to sing. I don't know how to speak. I was sitting there listening to the talk in Parthi at that time. I was there in Prashant. எனக்கு பாட தெரியும், பேச தெரியாது. But Swami has asked her to speak. Adhanala she starts speaking. Swami. And she says, each time she's standing, Swami sitting in his at the table chair. Swami. Abdini she will start. Then Swami will look at her. The interaction was so sweet, so beautiful. She is actually saying, Swami, the talk she's saying. But every time she calls out Swami, the way she said it is, Swami. So sweet her voice was. Such a sweet voice that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru once said, even if you cannot sing, if you speak, it is enough. Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, met M.S. Subbalakshmi. He wanted her to sing. At the time, she had a sore throat. She couldn't sing. Jawaharlal Nehru said, even if you speak, it is enough. Your voice is so sweet. And the sweetness with bhakti in it, prema in it for Swami, how would it be? What a delicious dish it was. Swami. Only Swami would talk. Swami turns. That video is there. See if we can find it and look at it. Swami, நீ எனக்கு அம்மாவா? ஆமாம். அப்பாவா? ஆமாம். ஆஷானா? ஆமாம். தெய்வமா? ஆமாம். Swami, are you the mother to me? Yes. Are you father? Yes. Are you teacher? Yes. Are you God? Yes. Onnuku she is asking the question and answering. Swami, Swami is looking. And every time she asks the question, Ammava, are you the mother? And yes, Swami is nodding. Swami. Appava, Swami talayatrar. Ashana, Swami nods his head. Deivama, Swami as though iva kekavanda, iva badil solavanda. Ama, and Swami shol. Such bhakti that Bhagavan says, if the question is, Swami, are you my mother? We are trying to convince ourselves, yes, Swami is my mother. In her case, Swami is saying, yes, indeed I am. Yes, indeed I am. Swami adichu solrar. Na bhakti paranga. God is all this and more also to you. என்னதான் இல்ல, வாட் இஸ் he not? நமக்கு பந்துவா? ஆமாம். சகாவா? ஆமாம். நமக்கு சுவாமியா? ஆமாம். நமக்கு பிராணநாதனா? ஆமாம். பதியா? ஆமாம். We can keep on adding to it. She only spoke about Mata Pita, Guru, Daivam. But is he not everything else? Is he not a friend? Is he not our Lord? Is he not our Master? Is he not our Pranapati, Pranakantan? Is he not our beloved? What is he not? Worship Hari, who lives in your heart, who's all this and more to you too. The physical body for whose sake you crave all this comfort and luxury is subject to damage and decay. One day it will become food for dogs and jackals. Hari, on the other hand, makes for joy and the thrill of Parama Prema, Pavitra prema, holy love. Surrender your heart to him. He desires nothing else from you. He cannot be won over by any other means, neither by unlimited scholarship, nor by pompous vratas and vows, nor by colorful rituals. What do we need, Rina? Na bahuya ayasho asuratmaja. Prahlada tells all the boys that are there, Hari does not require lot of effort, lot of strain, strenuous work is not required. It's very simple to attain the Lord. What does he want? Surrender your heart to him. Once you surrender your heart to him, once you say, I am your Swami, I am your Swami, not mere empty words. After that, you cannot belong to yourself. If you belong to him, you cannot belong to yourself. Everything is now him. His command alone, his word alone, his he alone. Me, mine, for my desires, my family, my job, my career, my, no my. My maya neet ni. The my maya neet. No more mice after that. Only yours. When we become totally sold to him, given over to him, belonging to him, சாமிக்கு ஒரு யானையை கொடுத்தா கூட பாத்துக்கிறார், நம்மளை பார்த்துக்க மாட்டாரோ? ஒரு காரை கொடுத்தா கூட பாத்துக்கிறார், நம்மளை பார்த்துக்க மாட்டாரோ? So many people did not know what to do. They gave cars to Swami. What will Swami do? Swami will make sure there's a big garages were there for each car. Somebody has to look after those cars also. And on Ayudha Puja, Swami will get into each car, get out, break coconuts, எல்லாம் பார்த்துக்கிறார். யாரோ கொடுத்த காருக்கே Swami is looking after so much. When we give ourselves, will he not look after us? Will he not take care of us? Will he not take care of everything that belongs to us? He doesn't require anything else also. No matter what else you give to him, he is not interested in it. He has got more of it than you can ever give him. I'll give you money. Sakshat Lakshmipati. What money can you give him? What wealth can you give him? You pluck a coconut and give him. He made the coconut come onto the tree in the first place. எல்லாமே கடத்தேங்கா வைப்பிள்ளையர் தான். No matter what it is that you give, everything came from him only. If I bring fruits for the Lord, fruits, who gave the fruits in the first place on the tree? நீ பறிக்கவனா பறிச்ச, அது கூட பறிக்கல, எவனோ பறிச்சா எடுத்துன்னு வந்த நீ. You did nothing. And I am offering to God. How can that even count as an offering to God? No matter what we give him, it is not offering. Only one thing we can give. One thing that we are thinking belongs entirely to us. Our self, our heart. If we give it to Bhagavan, Bhagavan is absolutely satisfied only then. Until then, Bhagavan has got contentment because he is Nitya Tripta. That is separate. And relatively speaking, Bhagavan is the most discontented fellow in the whole world. All the other people can be satisfied with some little bit. ஏதோ வீட்டில் குழந்தை காய்ச்சி முடிச்சு கத்திருந்தா ஒரு காக்கெட் பண்ணி கொடுத்தா சந்தோஷமா போடுவாங்க. தின்னுட்டு you make some sweets so the child is happy. You give something to the husband is happy. You give something to the wife, you buy flowers for the wife is happy. You call them once a day, parents are happy. இதெல்லாம் everybody is satisfied. Hari matram is never satisfied. So it's easy to satisfy. Looks like it is easy to satisfy all these worldly people. That is why we are busy satisfying them. Hari alone is the one person that is so hard to satisfy because what he wants is our heart. If we give it up, he is easily satisfied. Ashutoshi, easily pleased, but we don't want to give it. Idam prachana. If you give it, he is very happy. But giving, what does it mean to give? Edo kudutena, every kudukka mudiyum. Give. How to give? Gimme, appadina Swami. How to give? Pay tedutha kudukka mudiyum. Can you dig into the heart and give it to him? Is that the heart that he wants? The heart's he should become the essence of our life. He should become the center of our life. He should become the very life breath for us. It is not hard. It is not at all hard. Because if not him, then who? If you cannot give your heart to Bhagavan, who's prema himself, prema embodied, prema swarupanana Bhagavan, if we cannot give the heart, who can we give this heart to? He desires nothing else from you. Of the span of human life, padiyum urangipohum. One half of life is spent in sleep. The other half is frittered away in satisfying stupid desires. I'm reading Swami's words. Pichi korikalu. Mad desires, ella stupid desire. Any desire other than the desire for God, write it down. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to sit and analyze about it. If it is not a desire for God, you can write it down. It is a stupid desire. No justification for it. It is a stupid desire. If you satisfy stupid desires, you are stupid. Adu vera vishayam. That is a different story. What else can you be? And Swami says here, one half of life is spent in sleep. Other half is spent in satisfying stupid desires, in the inanity of old age. Vayasaga marandu porthu. As people grow older, mind also gets lost. I'm told, I hear from people about, oh, mother's got dementia now. She can't remember even me. It doesn't matter if she can't remember the son. If she can remember, at least at that time, she can remember Bhagavan, it is enough. Edo Hari Ishwaran Nyavandapur. Pain and sorrow and suffering of all kinds as old age comes, that is old age. That is reserved. But helpless ignorance of childhood and boyhood, misery, travail and illness. We are spending our lives. You can devote some years to worthwhile activity. Beware of misusing even these for silly pursuit of sensual pleasure. Use at least these precious years for the contemplation of the glory of the Lord, for fixing your mind on His lotus feet ever more firmly, and for thus transporting yourself across the vast ocean of birth and death. Childhood is spent in ignorance. We don't know any better. Old age is going to be spent in chinta, in worry. We cannot avoid it. We think now is the time to enjoy life, but now is also the time to attain God. Which one are you going to choose? That is where everybody chooses the wrong thing. Childhood, it's very hard for people to choose God. And ignorance is too much. Ignorance is too much. Yedo or Prahlada, Yedo or Dhruva, they were able to seek God. Okay. But most people, childhood is filled with, play this, play that, play this. Old age, aga vali vandande irke. Some pain or the other keeps coming as we grow older. Who can avoid it? People cry. There are people who come and cry. I was reading, a lady came to Yogi Ram Surat Kumar and he was blessing everybody. She said, I want to think about God, but I have so much pain in the body, I am not able to. Please bless me so that I will get health to think about God. So Yogi looked at him and said, Father bless us, Father bless us. We need health to bear it and think about God. Adhukum Bhagavad Arogyam. So this precious period of time, which we have, which we want to make sure, because we also know, when I grow older, I cannot enjoy life. So I have to enjoy it now. But when you grow older, you cannot attain God also. You have to attain it now. For everything, now, whatever your now is, doesn't matter how old you are. If you're 75, then this right now is still precious for you, because it is better than 85. At least now you can sit and listen to satsang. At 85, maybe even that will be hard. We do not know. Yeah, so at least whatever your now is, that now is precious. Attain God now. Attain God now. Swami tells a very nice little story. Anecdote Madhuri. In those days, even now I think it is so. In many of these temple towns, kshetras, Tirupati, etc., there will be associated with the temple will be a place where the pilgrims can eat food for free. Annadanam will take place. But for the Annadanam, what you need is, you need to go in the morning and get a ticket, because there will be limited number of tickets. In Shirdi to get the ticket for it. So you have to show that you're genuinely a devotee who has come, and everybody will start misusing it. To prevent it from being misused, you're a pilgrim who has come from interstate, from somewhere else. You get the ticket in the morning, and then you come right at the lunchtime, you show the ticket and you eat your food. Swami would say, when you go, old discourse, when you go to a pilgrimage spot like this, you must first get the ticket. Then you can go sightseeing. Then at the right time, when you come for lunch, you can show the ticket and eat the food. If on the other hand, without getting the ticket first, if you go around sightseeing, then by the time you come, they will say, sorry, it is finished for today. Then you have to go hungry. Similarly, first attain God, then you can enjoy the world. You will never go hungry. Securing the ticket is securing God. First get God. As it is said in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Or again, as Swami gave us a very beautiful example, there is a tree, a coconut tree, and on the ground there is the shadow of the coconut tree. If you climb the real tree, your shadow will climb the shadow tree. When you pluck the real coconut, your shadow will pluck the shadow coconut. Instead, we are trying to climb the shadow tree. Will we ever end up plucking a coconut? God is the real tree, world is the shadow tree. Divine Ananda is the real coconut, worldly pleasure, worldly Ananda is the shadow coconut. When we climb the real tree, our ahankara or our illusory existence is also climbing the shadow tree and enjoying the shadow fruit. When we pluck that, we get this also. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things will come to us. ఇచ్చినవు ఏవి అంతే చాలు అధికములకేమి అవి ఎప్పుడై కలుగు. For the rest of it, they'll come anytime. ఇచ్చినవి ఏవో అంతే చాలు. What you've given, enough. I need you. I need to seek you. వీడు నా భక్తుడని ఎల్లవేళల. All times you can say, this is my bhakta, this is my devotee. If you look at me and you look at me and say, he is my devotee. ஒரு వార్త నీ చొల్లిపో. ఒక రీతి అనుగ్రహమున్న చాలు. Swami, if that anugraha is there from you, that you every time you look at me, you have within you, Navadu, he's mine, he's mine, he's mine, he's mine. You should feel, when you look at me, you should feel I belong to you. You should feel I am yours. You should feel that you can take any liberties with me. That anugraha, if it is there, it is enough for him. Yeah. We don't want Swami to be polite to us, no? We want Swami to take liberties with us. We don't want Swami to say, randi, kuchandi, chalo namana Swami. ఎప్పుడు వచ్చారు నేను చెప్పాను, ఏ దున్నపోతా ఇక్కడ రా అప్పుడు చిన్న పూర్వమే నమ్మక. We are happier in that. Swami will treat those people with respect who don't belong to him. If they belong to him, even if they are 75 years old, he will pinch them in the cheek and say, good boy. Ram Brahman bannar liya. They'll be old and Swami will pinch them in the cheek as though they are a small boy. Good boy vera. Good boy ever. Everything. Swami himself was not that age at that time. He's older than Swami. Swami is pinching him in the cheek. Good boy. That is enough for that old man. No? What more does he want? So, therefore, practice at all times, and at all conditions, the remembrance with love and devotion of the name of the Lord. The name is the thunderbolt which will pulverize mountains of sin. It is the unfailing cure for the dread disease of sheer worldliness. Surely, that name will endow you with Shanti. We'll stop here for today and again continue in the evening at 7:30. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु, लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम तत्सत्. श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु.